And good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Appropriations Committee. This is our first bill hearing day in this the last session of this term of office. And we are pleased today to have with us our colleagues, mainly with bills that were introduced last year. And that is the reason, just so the public understands, that we are doing sponsor only this year. Unless there was a significant change in the bill, we are just doing sponsor only. This helps us move quickly and get bills, we hope, out to the floor for everyone's consideration. So we're going to start today with Delegate Lopez, Montgomery County. Welcome. And she will be presenting House Bill 111. Delegate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, colleagues in Appropriations. I'm Delegate Leslie Lopez, here to ask for your favorable report on HB 111. This bill passed this committee unanimously last year and passed the House nearly unanimously. I'm offering it in the exact same posture as last year. HB 111 prevents predatory debt collection practices by requiring that creditors provide specific evidence in wage garnishment lawsuits involving private student loan debt. In effect, this bill bans the use of mass-produced documentation, also known as robo-signing, by requiring collectors prove private student loan debts are valid when attempting to collect. This bill places the burden on creditors to certify that old debts are not barred by state statute of limitations. This protection will prevent creditors from obtaining court orders to garnish wages and seize assets to repay defaulted student loans that creditors cannot prove that borrowers actually owe. Private student loan borrowers should not fall victim to predatory and unsubstantiated lawsuits that we have recently seen across the state, and specifically concentrated in Montgomery and Prince George's counties, and also Baltimore City. Private student loan creditors are seeking judgments every day, even during COVID, to collect on student loans that they simply cannot prove that they actually own. The National Collegiate Student Loan Trust, just one of these creditors, owned more than 15,000 separate loans owned by Maryland borrowers, totaling more than $190 million. The committee should know that that the federal government has fined this creditor alone over $20 million for its deceptive practices in the past. This creditor filed more than 1,300 cases against Maryland borrowers in the past 5 years alone, and these cases disproportionately target communities of color. More than half of the lawsuits analyzed are against borrowers in majority minority zip codes. For the committee's review, I've attached a document to my written testimony with the numbers of these cases per district. The numbers will likely surprise you. In my district that I share with Appropriations colleagues, Delegates Acevero and Resnick, we have 53 lawsuits from this one creditor alone. Senior citizens are also disproportionately impacted by this type of abuse because borrowers of private student loans are almost always require a cosigner. Parents and grandparents are more frequently defaulting on private student loan debt. According to the AARP, 37% of private student loan borrowers over 65 are in default. Not only is the potential to retire put at risk, many of these senior citizens are also already on a fixed income and have benefits highly susceptible to the wage garnishment procedure. Since 2005, the amount of senior citizens whose benefits have been garnished as the result of defaulted student loan debt has quadrupled. So I thank you for your time today, and hopefully your continued support of a unanimously passed bill offered in the same posture as last session, which will ensure that private loan borrowers in Maryland do not fall victim to predatory and unfounded lawsuits.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the sponsor? You remember this bill, as a matter of fact. Any questions? I see none. Thank you very much, Delegate Lopez. It's good to see you. See you in person soon, I hope.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. We're now going to move to House Bill 87. Delegate Hill. Our Peace Corps in-state tuition bill.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of Appropriations. It's a privilege, as always, to be before you. And I'm asking for you to do what you did last year. Love this bill, HB 87, do the right thing for our returning Peace Corps volunteers, and pass HB 87, which allows returning Peace Corps volunteers to retain or automatically restore their in-state status for the purposes of college tuition. We looked at this bill last year to try and fix a problem that most of us didn't even know existed. And you all accepted an amendment that the community colleges requested to make sure that they're credited with giving that in-state tuition. And the bill is exactly in the form with which it passed this committee unanimously and passed the floor. So I don't know what the problem is with the Senate. I've spoken to the chair over there, and he, says that you all were right and he was wrong, and he will do a better job this year. So I'm asking on behalf of the Senate that we give them a second chance to get this right, and that you support HB 87.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Tessa. You're telling us that even in the cases of senators, they deserve a second chance, right?
Please give them a second, maybe not a third, but they do deserve at least a second chance.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Are there any questions of any of the members? We remember this bill very well. Thank you so much. And you have a great afternoon, okay?
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to move to House Bill 132, Delegate Griffith. Here. Yeah, there he is. I'd see you down in the corner. I'm sorry. And this one, by the way, is not a sponsor-only bill. There is going to be one person who is signed up to testify. So, Delegate Griffith, please take it away.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair McIntosh, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Delegate Mike Griffith, and I'm requesting a favorable report on HB 132, the Student Right to Know Act of 2022. There is a change from the posture of this bill from the previous year. The previous year, this bill, the financial burden would have fallen to the Department of Education. We have changed that. So now the financial burden and the housing of this bill would be at the Maryland longitudinal data system. So that's the significant change, which would constitute another member of my panel. For this bill, there's a great deal of conversation and legitimate concern about the national student debt crisis we face. Each year, millions of young adults are graduating from college with thousands and sometimes hundreds of thousands of student debt. The average Maryland resident has about $43,000 in student loan debt, which is the second highest in the nation. Many are struggling to build their futures while they pay off their student debt. Instead of trying to address the problem on the back end, it may be easier to try to minimize the problem from the starting point. There's bipartisan agreement that student loan debt is a problem. Even Senator Elizabeth Warren said that we need to stop treating students as profit centers, and I couldn't agree more. To compound the problem, young adults are struggling financially more than ever before, not only due to COVID and some lack of financial literacy, but also the looming end of the federal deferment of student loan payments. When I was younger, I was very financially illiterate, so I relate to the struggle. Between 2009 and 2018, there was an 8% slip in the amount of people who could correctly answer most questions about basic financial principles. And that's likely even higher now due to COVID. These results come as there's been an increased focus on improving young Americans' financial understanding, especially with the country saddled with $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. The U.S. Treasury Department has recently recommended colleges require financial literacy courses and financial award letters that clearly delineate which college costs, and this is why we've introduced this bill. It's very difficult as a young person to accurately consider the cost of college when there's a lack of accessible information, and it's self-evident that this is the case. So the purpose of the bill is to reduce student debt crisis by giving parents and students the resources early on to make informed decisions regarding post-secondary education. We can reduce student debt crisis in Maryland by providing the necessary information to parents and students before they decide which college degree to obtain and where to go. Additionally, students need to know the facts about the real cost of college and of a degree, average graduation rates, and a list of the most in-demand jobs in the state so they can choose a path that sets them up for long-term success. This bill would require the State Department of Education to provide critical information to students, which gives them the ability to make decisions about their education and professional future. This information will not just be publicly available for parents and students, but instead will be intentionally distributed directly to students. This bill establishes an online database to share the most in-demand jobs in the state, the average starting salary and education needed for those jobs, the average tuition for public universities in our state, the average monthly student loan payment for obtaining a four-year degree at a public university, and the average starting salary for those who graduated from schools here in Maryland. Furthermore, it ensures that the data collection does not place a financial burden on our colleges and universities. Thank you for your time, and I request a favorable report of HB 132.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We do have, are there any questions of the sponsor first?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I talked with, I guess they were the PR people for this bill. And when we discussed it, it seems like there were two states, Kansas and Florida, that have adopted this bill. And those are certainly not two states that I would be interested in mentoring or following. And there seemed to me to be a bit of an undertone that I couldn't come to grips with. I mean, are we trying to tell people that college isn't important? Is there a message there somewhere? That I was very uncomfortable with that. So I have to.
No, I mean, I don't think that's the case at all. I know, I believe, and I know the person on the panel, after he testifies, can speak to some of the technical questions on the bill and some of the other states. So I believe there are 10 states moving this forward. I believe 3 of them have Democratic governors that are signing this into law. I may be inaccurate, but Mr. Horvath will be able to speak to that directly. But no, I think it's the opposite. I think we want people to go to college. I think we want people to choose opportunities to better themselves. But if I'm right now a 17, 18-year-old kid, and all I hear is about student debt crisis in every direction, and people not being able to pay off their student loans for 20, 30, 40 years, and especially if they choose a career path that does not facilitate them to be able to afford to pay off their student loans, I think this creates an opportunity for young people. And I talk about my situation, right? Like I was a foster kid. I didn't know, what path I was going to take. I didn't have people guiding me and giving me good information on student loans, things of that nature. So I think it does the opposite. I think it sets people up to make better decisions, more informed decisions, to maybe choose a path where they do go into a field that allows them to pay off their student debt to help avoid this crisis. In some cases, maybe if someone's graduating high school and they're going to college, maybe they decide to start community college for a semester or 2 semesters to help find their path and solidify before they move to a 4-year school. It just opens up. I don't think there's any negative in transparency and more information. I think that's always a positive, especially with our young people.
Yeah, Delegate Griffith, there's a few good things that have come out of Kansas too. Just a couple that I can think of.
I can think of a good one.
Yeah, now Delegate Henson, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Griffin, for bringing the bill. I had the opportunity to discuss it with several interns that have worked in the office and work in my office currently that are college students. And I asked them a simple question. If you had access to the information that's proposed in this bill, do you think you would have made a different decision, or would it have influenced your decision? And each of them said yes, and expressed a desire to have this kind of information when going into college to be informed. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you for bringing the bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Delegate Henson. It means a lot. Appreciate it.
Delegate Griffith, last year, as I recall, and they're not signed up today to testify, but as I recall, as with many bills that we hear, the colleges, universities said that this would be did they say that there was any undue burden to them? I can't recall what the opposition was, if any.
Yes, Madam Chair. So the opposition was that the financial burden would fall to the Department of Education and college universities. That's the substantive change we made this year. It's going to fall under the Maryland Longitudinal Data Center would bear the burden of the cost.
All right. Well, thank you very much. We do have one person to testify, and I do have to note that we are sticking to our 2-minute rule so that the sponsor has ample time to introduce the bill, and anyone following the sponsor, we'd like them to summarize their testimony within 2 minutes. We have with us today from the Opportunity Solutions Project, Joe Horvath.
Yes. Hey, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, my name is Joe Horvath. I'm a visiting fellow with the Opportunity Solutions Project, which is a nonprofit, nonpartisan advocacy organization that seeks to restore the path to self-sufficiency and remove barriers to work. Thank you for hearing this legislation before your committee, and I'm submitting testimony in strong support of HB 132. This bill helps Maryland address a growing problem in the United States. Today, student debt totals more than $1.7 trillion, equivalent to roughly 8% of the nation's GDP. The average Marylander student debt specifically totals more than $43,000 on average, the second highest in the nation. Until presidential and congressional action that reduced student default rates on student debt temporarily, it was defaulted on more commonly than any other kind of personal debt. Accrual of student debt is at times an unavoidable cost of attaining a degree, but can also be the result of a simple lack of awareness of personal finances and economics, as well as the inability to plan ahead. House Bill 132 would help young Maryland students and their parents by increasing access to important information on the cost of college, other training opportunities, and potential earnings data. This information will be delivered directly to its intended audience. It's smart, it's practical, and it's necessary. The end result is a connection. Students are connected with the kind of information they need to make informed decisions about school, work, and their futures. Too many young people are forced to make one of the biggest decisions of their lives with an incomplete plan, and unfortunately, often no plan at all. College is how you succeed in America now. Figure it out when you get there is not good enough. Students can take out tens and thousands of dollars of loans with little more than a signature without any real plan of how to pay off that loan. Many eventually struggle, particularly those who do not graduate in a timely manner, or those who don't graduate at all. Between 2014 and 2016, nearly 4 million undergraduates with student loan obligations dropped out, not realizing any income increase from the college, but suffering much of the debt. Unfortunately, those who do not graduate have a default rate 3 times higher than those who do. There are a multitude of opportunities available to young people, and there are ways to optimize the education experience and keep costs as low as possible. They just need to know about them. There are also opportunities outside the 4-year bachelor's degree process. With the cost of college growing at a rate almost 8 times higher than wages, now is an appropriate time as any to explore these options.
Can you summarize, please?
Absolutely. And actually, that was the end of it, Chair. I apologize for going over.
No. You did great then. All right. You did great. Any questions? Any questions? Yes, Delegate Forbes.
Thank you. Are we duplicating the work that the U.S. Department of Education does in the College Affordability and Transparency Center? They have a website, collegecost.ed.gov, and they have the college scorecard, and all of this information is available already on the federal level. So why would we need to provide it at the state level? Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. That's an excellent question. So the reason's twofold. One, it's not duplicating so much as incorporating some of the good work that was already put into place under the Obama administration with the U.S. College Scorecard. What it would do is incorporate some of that federal data into a Maryland-specific tool and marry it with the job market information so that it's delivered right to the students. It's been a long time since I've been in high school, but I've heard about how young people would struggle to find the various different kinds of information they need to make a decision and get it all into one place. So this would do that for them.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the testimony. You'd mentioned about providing the information for students all in one place. So practical application, this is done in other states. What would that look like for a junior, a sophomore at a high school in Maryland? With this bill passing, what would they have available and how would this help them make their decision other than providing the information to them?
Absolutely, and thank you for the question, sir. So about 10 states have taken action on this issue and in this direction, creating a tool like this, ranging from Maine, we mentioned Florida and Kansas, Arizona, Maine, a number of states. And practically speaking, when this, if something were to go live here, it would look like a delivery system in two ways. It would be an online portal that would exist at all times for individuals, any age, parents. If you're a seventh grader and you're curious about your career or college opportunities, you can look then. So this online portal would always exist through MLDS, but then it would also be delivered directly to the students for their junior and senior year in October, which is about the time of year that you're making decisions on SATs, what schools you're applying to, and sort of building that life plan. So beginning of the academic calendar is very important to deliver it right to them. So that way they have the information in their hands at the time they're thinking about these decisions for 2 years.
Understood. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other questions? I see none. Thank you very much. That concludes the bill hearing on House Bill 132. We're now going to move to House Bill 19. We get Solomon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's good to see everybody. This is a bill that is back for its third year. We're hoping the third year is the charm. The Safe Walk to School Act, we first introduced it in 2020, passed, and then unfortunately the world came a little bit to a screeching halt, and then we passed it again overwhelmingly out of this committee and out of the House. Unfortunately, our Senate partners ran a little bit out of time, and similar to Delegate Hill, talked with our colleagues on the other side, and we're hoping to get a little bit of a better reception and an earlier look at it this year. But just real quick, what this bill does is addresses something that frankly has become even more of a problem since the pandemic started, a real rash of pedestrian safety issues and issues that kids and families are having in really getting to school. And so, we see data across the board that shows speeding and reckless driving has increased. Even before the pandemic, on average, about 3,000 pedestrians are injured. Every year in Maryland, nearly 100 or more are killed. We have stats that show of those 3,000, give or take, about 600 of them usually are children below the age of 19, and nearly half of them are hurt walking to or from school. And so what this bill does is, we think, a really just practical solution. So if you are a school district who is looking to build either a new building or an addition to an existing school that would increase the capacity by more than 100 students, in the process of creating the plan for the new school or the addition, you've got to do a pedestrian safety plan. And what does that look like? That looks like analyzing safe routes to school for kids to either walk or bike. Looks at evaluating the existing infrastructure in and around the area of the school, like sidewalks, speed limits, whether they're the appropriate signals at those types of intersections. You've got to look at the school zones in and around the school. So do those need to be expanded? Do those need to be adjusted? And then most importantly, you've got to involve the public. So you've got to have some sort of a public hearing or public meeting that involves the community in this kind of work. And then there's got to be collaboration between the school systems and either the local departments of transportation in the counties or the State Highway Administration. And I'll share, this comes from particular interest, unfortunately, in my community, in my district, where we have a number of schools that either are very close to or literally abut state highways, where frankly there was little or no consideration given to how students are going to safely be able to get across the street to be able to get to school. We have an intersection where it's taken 6 years to get a signal put up. That's within a quarter of a mile of both a middle school and a high school. And so what we want to do is really alleviate those kind of situations. Most importantly and frustratingly, the bill does not force changes to be made. So I know there's been some opposition saying, oh, this is going to require school systems to spend millions and millions of dollars to upgrade sidewalks that they have no control over. That's not the case. We're hoping that by collaborating and putting a plan together, communities can come up with really, frankly, oftentimes really easy solutions, like lowering a speed limit. It does not cost anything, but it's something that through community collaboration, we can really fix. The last thing I'll mention is in 2020, when we first started working on this bill, I know Many of you who represented some rural communities were concerned over the analysis needing to be done for places where obviously, if kids are living 20 or 30 miles from school, they're not walking. So this bill contains the compromise language that we worked out in 2020, which basically said if you live in a low density county, but you are a community that has a school in a high density municipality or entity within that county. So I believe now Senator Quarterman, but Delegate Quarterman and I worked on it in relations to the city of Hagerstown. If you had a school that was being built within that city, you would have to do the pedestrian safety plan. But for the rest of the schools in the communities where the density was significantly lower, you wouldn't need to. So with that, again, I think this bill passed overwhelmingly out of our committee last session, overwhelmingly out of the House, and would ask a favorable report.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions of the sponsor? Any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Delegate McKay, if I may.
Yes.
Delegate, thank you for making that concession for the urban and rural. I appreciate that and look forward to helping you get this one over the finish line, sir. Thank you, Delegate Solomon.
Thank you, Delegate McKay. Appreciate it.
So Delegate Solomon, you want to give the senators 3 chances.
I mean, third time's the charm, Madam Chair.
Okay. 3 strikes, you're out. Third comes around. Okay, I got it. All right. Any other questions? I see none. We'll move on to our last bill of the day. That'll conclude House Bill 19. We'll move to House Bill 90. Delegate Henson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of Appropriation, our chair and vice chair, for hearing this bill today. HB 90 is similar to legislation passed last session by this committee and the House. It concerns the rights and protections that are extended to state employees who work for the Maryland Office of the Public Defender. OPD employees are state employees in the executive branch, but unlike 30,000 other state employees, they have been excluded from the right to collectively bargain and from the protections granted to merit employees in the state personnel management system. This legislation does 3 things to remedy that. It changes the employment status of attorneys in the Office of Public Defender from special appointee to professional service. Under this designation, they would go from being at-will employees to employees that have the same rights and protection as other state employees. It adds the Office of Public Defender to the list of state agencies that are covered under the collective bargaining in our state. It would be enabling legislation, which means that OPD employees would be able to hold an election to decide to collectively bargain and how to proceed forward with that. Finally, it ensures that employees in the Office of the Public Defender are properly classified into the appropriate bargaining units upon implementation. By way of example of the importance of the bill, the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated how unfair it is that similarly situated employees had a chance to negotiate on health and safety policies and higher wages, but OPD employees did not. OPD employees often work right alongside other state employees that have those rights in our state's hospitals, prisons, juvenile detention centers, and courtrooms. This bill would impact roughly 650 employees in our Office of Public Defender with collective bargaining power and the right to be able to be classified as merit employees. 19 other states currently allow their public defenders, their employees, including the attorneys in that office, to collectively bargain. Our OPDs are doing exemplary work on behalf of the state of Maryland. They are at the front line of fighting for justice and the laws that we enact here. We have the opportunity with this bill to make sure that our Office of the Public Defender is addressing inequities in our criminal justice system by supporting the professionals who support the people who cannot afford an attorney. Thank you very much. I ask for a favorable report.
Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? I see none. Okay, that'll be going to the Personnel Oversight Committee to look at. This concludes our bill hearings for the day. I do want to remind you that we have work to do tomorrow. we'll be meeting again tomorrow at 1 for 3 briefings. 1, the infrastructure bill. 2, State Park Commission recommendations, which is a commission that was chaired by the former Governor Glendenning, that has come out with a series of recommendations that I think we on the House side are going to be very interested in. State parks were one of our priorities last year. And then the OLA audit on state grants. We will be hearing that also. So 3 briefings tomorrow. And until then, I wish you all well. And I suppose we should, by the way, do a formal public welcome to Delegate Stephanie Smith, who's now a member of the committee. So welcome to you. And did Delegate Beitzel, did I see your hand go up?
Yes, I just want to check to see if are we getting advance material for the briefing, or will that be presented during the briefing?
All right, Michelle.
Yeah, we're working on getting you the materials. So when we have them compiled, we'll send them out to you hopefully before.
Okay. We'll try. We'll give it. All right. How is it out in Garrett County? You got some snow?
We have probably 18 to 20 inches.
That's a lot.
But it's really nice now. It's,
Nice and sunny. Good. All right. Well, thank you all very much. As I said, it's great to see all of you. Have a great day.
You as well.